What's up, everyone? Welcome to Wednesday Night Mythic Conversations. As always, I am your host, Jeremy Gerard. I'm a Mythic Legions collector and customizer who also, of course, has the distinct privilege of being the director of sales and marketing for Four Horsemen Studios. That means that all the cool stuff that you see at the official website, which is, of course, sourcehorseman.com, all the stuff you see there is stuff that I help to bring you. If you want to see more of my work and the things that I do, the best place to do so is on my Instagram. That is at Mythic Customs. I'm also here every single Wednesday night doing this show, Mythic Conversations, the show that we talk about all things Legions. Very, very excited for this evening. I had so much fun last week doing some live customizing. It felt like a return to the days of old, a return to what Mythic Conversations was first about when I got started. I had so much fun, I decided to do it again. So this evening, we're going to do some customizing as well. I've already got my cam over here, my customs cam over there. So going to have a good evening doing that. Of course, before we get there, we're going to cover the news. Not a ton going on just yet, but wait, it is the calm before the proverbial storm. Mark my words, by this time next week, we are going to have some very cool stuff to be talking about. Let's see what's going on here. It is called Mythic Conversations for a reason, and that is because I want to hear from you. Let's see. No, I did not get a new camera. Thank you very much for noticing, though I got a light. So for Valentine's Day, my wonderful wife got me some actual lights to help light the room. So I'm using the same camera that I usually use, but I just think that if it looks better than it normally does, and looking on the screen, it actually does look clearer. That is because I actually have the room lit a little bit. So I'm trying some new things to try to improve the quality. Thank you very much for noticing. I appreciate that. Let's see. Yes, Star got it right. Star said new lighting, and that was back. Yeah, Jeremy back in his sweet spot. Yes, I am here again. I'm in the toy room. I know this is a much nicer background. It's a lot more work to set it up, but worth it sometimes, right? Very cool. Okay. Someone saying they can't wait for Saturday. Yeah, Mike, we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Ooh, yeah. Okay. Very, very cool. So, stuff going on. Obviously, last weekend was the Cosmic Legions test shot sale. That was absolutely crazy. They went so fast. But the cool thing was, looking at the orders, people for the most part respected the rules. There's only a couple things that we had to fix, and a couple of them were legit mistakes. The people reached out to us immediately and said, hey, I think I messed up. Mark, I'm looking at you. But no, those people were super cool. In their rush, they grabbed something they shouldn't have. It got added right back in. All was good. Those are starting to arrive. So I'm super, super excited about that. Tomorrow, we're going to actually post, and let me make this right here. Tomorrow, I'm going to post a message in the on the Four Horsemen social channels, the Instagram and so forth, using this hashtag, Cosmic is coming. So what I would love to see people do is those people that were fortunate enough to get a Cosmic Legions test shot, snap some photos of it. They don't need to be professional photos. I don't care if they're on your kitchen table. Snap some photos of that, put it in some cool poses, and share it. One of the reasons we were excited to get these test shots out there is because they are the first cosmic pieces that fans are going to have in their hands. So we want to see people playing with them. We want to see them taking photos of them. When you do so, use that hashtag Cosmic is coming. Tag Four Horsemen Studios. We absolutely are thrilled to see everyone having some fun with these test shots. Before you know it, the full figures will be here, but for now, the test shots will hopefully sate some of our appetites for those people that were lucky enough to get them. Let's see. Yep, Matt, doing some more customizing tonight. Let's see. Laura, thank you very much as well. I appreciate that. Let's see. Yeah, shout out to Super Happy Incredible Toys. Yeah, new Mythic retailer in Houston. Very, very cool. So the other thing that's going on now this week, this coming Saturday, is the fourth of the 4 weeks of Horseman sales. 4 weeks of Four Horsemen sales. Obviously, the first 3 weeks were test shots. This week is the standard Legions Con figures. So if we go back all the way to last year when we announced the Legions Con 2022 figures, the Unknown One and the Furious 4, what we said is just like what we did for Sir Gerard the year before, there would be a show version for Legions Con that would come in a special box. It would have additional, pieces that weren't meant to be in the standard release. Of course, we all know that the factory made a mistake and the standard version of Sir Gerard came with the exclusive head, but that's not happening this year. But what is happening is those standard versions, those con exclusives are being reissued as standard versions. Now, I've seen a lot of people ask, are these going to be available at retailers? The short answer is no. These are not. I mean, who knows what the future will hold? Maybe down the road, but I can tell you there are no plans at this time to offer these figures to retailers. These are not pre-order items. These are actually ordered. These standard figures are made at the exact same time as the show versions. So they run all of them together. They package the ones for the show. They package the one for standards. They all get shipped. So these have actually been at the warehouse in storage for a few months now. These are what goes up Saturday. And I actually have some of them right here. So I shared a photo of this one today on the Four Horsemen Instagram. This is the Unknown One. So you can see that unlike the show package that comes in the box, the show package has the artwork of the Unknown One on the back. This is in more of a deluxe package. This isn't a package like what we got Vargan, right? It's even got the Alithia art on the back. Standard, if you've ever got any of the deluxe figures, the Barbarian Builder or something, standard figure pack. The standard version of Unknown One, he does not come with the skeleton head or neck that came with the show version, and he doesn't come with the soft goods. Those all ended up being for the show only. So this is going to be available. This is going to be $45, of course, plus shipping and taxes where applicable. Certain places have to pay taxes. So very cool, $45 for this. This is a figure that fans absolutely have loved. Super cool design by my friend and fellow colleague at Four Horsemen Studios, Bill Mancuso. Awesome figure of the Unknown One. Now, all these figures are going to be limited to 12 per person for the first 24 hours. And just by that number should give you a sense of the fact that we've got quite a few more of these than we had of the test shots, right? These are not the kind of things that are going to sell out in seconds. That being said, I'm going to suggest to you that if you want these figures, Saturday at 12 noon on Store Horseman, let me bring that up here. Store Horseman, let me find that little banner here. So 12 noon this coming Saturday, Store Horseman, that's when these figures go for sale. My suggestion to you is get on there around 12 if you want these and make your purchase. They're not going to sell out in seconds, but I don't know if they'll make it through the weekend. The first 24 hours, they're limited to 12 of any one of these per person. So there's 3 different things that be for sale. You can buy 12 of each if you really wanted. After that 24-hour period, we will lift that order limit, and if people want more than 12, they absolutely can do so. So I don't know if they'll make it through the weekend. The closest thing we have to a sale like this was reinforcements last year. The Sir Gerard was similar to this because the reinforcements were Legion Builder, so they were Legion Builder prices, right? The Sir Gerard was a standard figure at 37. He sold out in just about 24 hours. So we could see something similar with these. Not going to be in seconds. You're not going to have a mad dash where you have to get in there and just order and not even think like you do with the test shots. You've got the time. Breathe easy. Don't panic, but don't wait. Get in there if you want them. So the other two figures that will be available will be the 2 Furious 4 figures. So again, some confusion around these. Some people thought it was going to be 4 different figures. It's not. It's 2. It's 2 different figures. As you can see, this one you can actually see it better. You can see that it's got the orc head for Uwit, and then it's got the Minotaur head for Pitorion. This one has the skeleton head for Pelvicus. The Mercurian head for Lord Bashadi is in the package. It's in a tray behind there. It's just not as obvious. You can't see it as much. Both of these will be available. Again, these are limited to 12 per person max for the first 24 hours. And these are $37. So these are standard figure pricing. One of the cool things about those are when we decided to do the packaging, one fun thing that we had the idea to do was to put different heads on the single figures than we had put on the 2-pack. And the reason we did that is so you can do this. Let me bring up this graphic here. Boom, boom, boom. So it was specifically so you could do this. You can see that in the middle, we have the show set of the Furious 4, and that set was packed with Pitorion's head on and with Lord Bushadi's head on. And then because we packaged the other 2, the singles with Uwit and Pelvicus, if you've got them all together, you can do this super fun layout and put them all in a row. The fact that it says Furious 4 right in the middle, kind of a fun little part there. So that Legion's column in the center, that is certainly sold out at this point, but the 2 figures on the edges, those are the ones that are going to be available. They include all of the parts from the show version set with the exception of that cat, that Jagualian head and tail. Those are the 2 pieces that are not included. So those are the ones that you won't get in either of those 2 packages. But all the weapons, all the parts, totally included. These are a great set. You know, I put these together. I was the one that designed these. My good friend Joe Vassapolo did all the paints on these. It's personally a really cool project that I had a lot of fun working on. But the figures themselves, it's made me so happy to hear people talk about the incredible value of these figures, how much you get in these boxes, the incredible paint applications that Joe had done on the prototypes, which were translated by the factory. These are absolute winners. Don't sleep on these if you want to grab others this coming Saturday. Let me go back here. I'm going to check some comments. Okay, let's see. No star, sorry. No hints at Cosmic Legions 3 yet. Wait for it. Yep. All-Stars 5 is on a boat. It is on the way now. Hopefully, we should have that here in hand near the end of February, very beginning of March. You never know when, there's always the possibility of port delays or something like that, getting through customs. But right around the end of the month, beginning of March, they should be arriving, which is exactly what we had said towards the, endish of Q1, and our team is ready to go. As soon as those arrive, those are going to be starting to process. Very, very excited for that. Also, obviously, the tactics, the Mythic Legion tactics, the figures from the video game, those are on the water as well. So those will be fulfilling soon also. Jeremy, who will be at MuskeCon? That will be Jim and Cornboy. Jim and Cornboy are making the trip out there, the flight out there to be part of MuskeCon. There will be figures going out there. Actually, those Furious 4 singles, those will be at MuskeeCon for sure. You know, Four Horsemen, we never talk, we never say for sure what's going to be at shows. We do that for a very specific reason because we bring limited amounts of stuff and we don't want to say to someone, oh, we're going to have X, and then they show up and it's sold out. And they say, well, you said this would be here. It's easier just not to say what we're going to have. The other reason is we often don't know what we're going to bring until like the day before. So we don't reveal that, but I will reveal that we are sending some cases of the Furious 4 singles to MuskeeCon, appropriately so, since that is the home base of the Furious 4 themselves. That is Petorion's home show. He puts that on. So excited about that. Jim, Cornboy, they will be there. One note about MuskeeCon, if you are going, the Four Horsemen stuff that's for sale will be cash only. Because we're not bringing the full team, we're not doing the whole, purchasing system. All of those sales are going to be handled by Travis from the My Wife Is Going to Kill Me podcast. So they're going to be cash only at that show. So just be aware of that. Let's see. Let's see. Just going through all the comments here. Mythic Bit saying I'm getting nostalgic for reinforcements. Yeah, that was last January, so we're a little bit over a year away from those now. Do Furious 4 figures come with capes? The Lord Bushati, it's Pelvicus. The Pelvicus Bushati figure does have a cape. It's not a wired cape. It's not like some of the ones we've been doing lately that have a little extra to them. But it's a cool cape. It's shaped really kind of neat. It's not just one color. It's got some fading on it. Kind of a neat thing. I like it a lot. That comes with that figure. The Petorion Uwit figure doesn't have any kind of soft goods or any kind of cape. Let's see. So that's what's going on right now. Again, this coming Saturday. I think that's the big news. ZoloCon is coming up in a few weeks as well, but I do have one more show to go before ZoloCon, so I'm not going to talk too much about Zolo. I'm going to save that till next week. I will get into what we're doing here tonight, though. So let's talk about that. Again, I had so much fun last week doing my live painting, doing some live customizing of some goblins, that I said, you know what, I'd love to do that again. That'd be a lot of fun. And I just happened to get a box from Wolf King Customs this week. So my buddy Len has been holding out on me. Actually, the reality is what Len has done for years is whenever I have new parts that he has to send me for approval, he always throws in a bunch of extra stuff from the other artists of Wolf King so I can see them, so I can play with them, so I can paint them and use them. I actually haven't done any new parts in a while. Some of the parts that we are releasing, like the weasels that just came out, were done so long ago. They were finished so long ago that it's actually been a little while since Len's had to send me a box of stuff of my own to approve. So there are a number of cool parts that I haven't gotten yet. So recently I needed a couple things and I said to Len, hey, can you send me these items? And he threw in a bunch of extras. He threw in a whole bunch of stuff. And I forgot how much I loved getting orders in from Wolf King Customs. There was so much cool stuff in there. It just got the creative juices flowing. So I got the idea that, you know what? I'm going to make a couple gladiators tonight. Gladiators are a kind of figure category that is part of Mythic Legions. We got the Calavius figure in Advent of Decay, which was really the first gladiator figure that we got. I guess you could say Atlas was kind of gladiator because his story does connect to the Colosseum as well. But the first like real gladiator looking character, I would say, was Calavius. Later on, we got the entire Colosseum wave, and part of the lore of Mythos was revealed that there is a Colosseum on Mercurios and that some shady stuff has gone on there. We got these kind of gladiator type characters. And then Deluxe Legion Builders, there's a gladiator figure in Deluxe Legion Builders as well. So gladiators, that is certainly part of the realm of Mythos. Now, personally, I'm not a huge gladiator fan. I know there are some people that love those characters as a classification. I think they're cool, but they've never been my favorite. But they are fun. What I do like is rethinking different types of races and so forth. as different character classes. So one of the things I'm going to do tonight, two of the ones that I put together, one of them is a vampire gladiator, one of them is a dwarf gladiator. So those are the first two that really I got inspired by looking at parts from the Wolf King Customs box. So we're going to work on both of those tonight. And I also, if I have time permits, I do have a third one as well. I do have a human type gladiator character that uses some additional parts. So very cool. One thing I did want to point out, and I'll share this again towards the end, when Len found out that I was doing this tonight, he put up a really cool kind of category on Wolf King Customs. If you see on the screen, wolfkingcustoms.com/mythic-conversations-ep-128. Mythic Conversations EP 128. If you go there, there's a little category of products that's going to be the things that I use tonight. So a lot of the stuff that I'm painting tonight, if you see them and you're like, oh, wow, that's super cool, I want one of those for myself, you can certainly go to Wolf King Customs. You can look through their catalog and find those and a lot of other cool stuff. But if you want to narrow it down, the stuff I'm painting tonight should be in that category there. So I'll put that back up on the screen again later. Let's see, just checking out here. Stephen, prices are fixed at cons. We do not haggle. If you come up and you want 50 figures, it's the same price as if you buy one. I mean, the per piece price. There's no haggling at the shows. There's no lowering prices. It is what it is. Let's see what's going on. Got Joe. Joe's confirming that he will be at Toylanta. Yeah, we'll be talking about that down the road in a little bit. Toylanta's a little bit away. Okay. All right, cool. So let's see. So let me bring up this that I've got here. And okay. So one of the things I'm doing tonight, I've got both the camera on here and this over here. So sometimes it's going to be weird. My back's going to be to it. One of the things I've got is this, which I'll bring into the light, into the camera. So this is called a wet palette. This is something that my friend Curtis Ackerman bought me a while ago, and I've never gotten around to actually using it. So because I'm going to be spending a little bit of time tonight, I'm going to work with this. For those that don't know what this is, I didn't know what this was until I started playing with it. It's basically a sponge. There's a sponge here underneath this paper, and then there's this paper. So you put your paint on this little piece of paper, and what happens is it continues to absorb water from the sponge underneath it that keeps it wetter longer. So kind of cool. I've never used it before, but I figured tonight's a good one to start with. So let's bring up the first figure here. So this is that vampire that I was talking about. So what I did here was this actually uses a few different pieces. So this uses the Varg upper torso and the arms. I've seen a few people do this where they take a Varg figure and they put full-size legs on it to actually make it like a shirtless, full-sized vampire as opposed to that beastly Varg. The lower legs and the lower arms, the gauntlets, those are from that, appropriately so, that Furious 4 set, from the Praetorian. I use those there. The feet and the hands are from Varg. This soft goods piece that I'm using here, that is actually from Max Bird. It is a Max Bird Gladiator shoulder cloak. We actually sell those at Legion Shop. We sell this exact one at Legion Shop. So put that figure together that way. The custom pieces that I have on this, there's this head here that was sculpted by Emil Wickman. And this head, I forget what it's called. Let me look it up. It's called, let's see. I'm going to go right to that page, right to that group I showed you. It's called the Purifier. It's called the Purifier helmet. So I'm using that. And then I've got these axes. These are these really cool axes that Stephen Bisciotti actually drew these. and then they were sculpted. I believe Len said they were sculpted by Gia. He actually wrote me everything about who sculpted all this stuff, and of course, I don't have that information because it's on my phone, and my phone is literally right here being used as a secondary camera. So one of the things I'm going to do, and maybe I will go full screen on this because I feel like having my back to you looks a little weird. So the first thing I'm going to do here is figure out these colors. So I want to match this head here to this armor. This is going to be an easy one. This is just going to be a little bit of dry brushing, some silver with some black mixed in, just to get that color. What I'm going to do for these axes is I'm going to paint the wood part with a little bit of dry brushing brown for wood. I'm going to paint the axe blade the same color as that armor. And then I'm going to just do a little bit of dry brushing red on that wrap of that handle there to bring that color into this as well. So easy peasy. So I'm using this Craft Smart tin color here. And then just some Vallejo black. And as I said, this is my first time using this, so not 100% sure what to expect, but so far so good. I can actually probably just do it on the figure here. Heads like this are so much fun to paint because there's so much detail to them that dry brushing them it just brings out those details. Very cool. One thing I did forget to bring out is I didn't bring out my hair dryer so I could dry some of this stuff very quickly. So I might have to jump off camera for a minute and get that. This is a really fun piece right here. This axe. I'm going to do a little more silver on this. Want that blade to pop a little bit more. And I'm doing two of them. I want this guy to dual wield. I love dual wielders. That's, if you checked out the on the Wolf Den Facebook group, the special that I did with Curtis where we talked about character design, we talked a lot about different weapons and what different weapons say about characters, and the whole concept of a dual wielder is really cool because the level of dexterity that requires says something right out of the gate about that character. So this character here is a dual wielder. I do a little bit at the bottom here. There's this like little spike at the bottom. Very cool. Okay. Like that so far. So let's do a little bit of brown on those handles. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to hit this with a dab more silver. Very cool. Okay. Brown. Checking here. Yeah, Thor, Craft Smart Paint, I I don't use a ton of it. I love that particular one, that tin one. Great for dry brushing. When you're not using like full coverage, I love it. I think it works great. For the full coverage pieces, I tend to go with the Vallejo. Uh, Eduardo, I did prime these in black, or I did put a black base coat on them. I did that in advance, obviously, the show, so they'd be ready to go. These particular ones, a lot of the ones Len sent me were very, very dark to begin with, but I did add some additional base coat on top of them. Gregoris, very happy that you're enjoying these again. Oh, and here's Len. Yes, axe is drawn by Steve, sculpted by Gianluca. Oh, Eric Miller, groundbreaking. Says, I need you to know I'm falling in love with Vallejo paints. Never thought I would, but here we are. Eric has seen the light, my man. If Eric likes them, you know that that's right. Len says, I'll post the direct links and the info in the Wolf Den and the Cabal after the show. 10% off with coupon code for the parts used tonight and more. So there you go. Len is giving 10% off to all these parts. Let's see. Yes, Curtis, he's using the wet palette. I am. Very good. I miss LBC customizing videos. Star, I disassemble the figure first to avoid getting paint on the soft goods. I probably should, but I'm not going to tonight. I tend to take the path of least resistance. So while it does make sense and while I'm certainly running the risk of ruining it, I'm just going to leave it there. All right, so I'm going to do a little bit of brown here. So I need to lighten that brown up because what I have, it's so dark that I'm just dry brushing it so lightly that it's not going to look right on. I'm just going to put a little bit of another color here. Now, obviously, this is a little bit more of a challenge for me because I don't have my full array of paints, right? I'm working with just whatever I thought to bring with me today. So a little bit more challenge, but it's okay. We'll make it work. Very cool. Gotta take my glasses off to paint. So using my favorite brushes. If you check out my channel, I do have a video that talks about how to get started with painting and like what my preferred painting over here now. What my preferred paints and brushes are. These are Testors brushes that I like to use. And the more that you use this stuff, Eric Miller was just talking about the fact that he's enjoying the Vallejo paints. The reason why so many painters choose a paint or choose a brush or choose something and stick with it is the fact that there's that level of familiarity that is really nice. You get really used to using certain things and you get really, really good at it. So as a customizer, as someone who does this quite a bit, there's always that mix of trying new things while staying true to what you know, right? Because you don't want to try something new and mess up what you're doing. So it's always that mix of, okay, what do I want to try that's new? When do I need to stay consistent? But yeah, and we've all tried different stuff. I'm a Vallejo guy. I've tried Citadel plenty of times. It's great. I think they're great paints. I tend to use Vallejo more. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to use Vallejo Flat Red. I love stuff like this. So you can see that it's got, I don't know which one will be better, but it's got like that wrap on the end there. So I'm just going to use a little bit of red. And one of the nice things with dry brushing, as I always say, is you just layer that on to get the coverage that you want. And I just want that pop of color. I want that pop of red. See what I did there? I got a little bit on the end and I just wiped it off with my thumb. Easy peasy. Just a little bit of red, just that pop of color. Now, people always ask, do I seal my paints? Seal my paints typically for two reasons. One, if I'm selling the custom. If I'm selling the custom and I don't know where it's going, to give it that extra level of protection, I am going to seal it up. The other thing I would seal would be something like this. Because these are meant to go in figures' hands, you're going to get a fair amount of wear and tear, on the gripping. So I would also seal these, and I will seal these after the show's done. It's amazing when you dry brush and like you put that first layer on and you get a certain depth of color, and then you do another application, another layer, just to see how much darker it gets. So I've got my two axes ready to go. I've got my head ready to go. Let me just take a minute. I'm just going to look at this real quick, make sure this looks like I want. So there's a tiny bit of brown, tiniest bit of brown in the armor there. So I've already got a brown here. I don't want a lot, but just that tiniest little bit. And then, of course, you can cheat and you can use the paint you have there, and you can add a little more of that to some of the other armor parts as well. That's one of the things, that's one of the cheats I love to do, right? When you're trying to match something like this, the paint you're using there, put a little bit of it on the stuff you're trying to match, and you'll tie them in together that way as well. Very cool. So this guy, what we have here, and I will put these back in his hands because I can always touch them up later if I want, and I want you to see how it looks. And obviously the question is, would I normally be applying this stuff like this? No, I would take more time and I wouldn't be putting the weapons right back into his hands, but I'm doing a live show and things are different when you're doing a live show. So this is what I got for my vampire custom. Put my glasses back on. So that's what I got here. So I've got, again, that Varg body, that head that I just told you from Wolf King, this shoulder cloak, shoulder cape, Gladiator shoulder cape from Max Bird sold at Legion shop, and then these two axes. So really digging this guy, liking him a lot. Next, we're going to do the dwarf. We're going to work on the dwarf. So what I've put together for this dwarf here is a couple things. So I used let me put the head on him. I used a deluxe Gladiator body. So the upper arm, the upper body is deluxe Gladiator. The legs, the armor and all that, the lower legs, that is from the deluxe Dwarf Legion builder, okay? The axe and the shield, those are some parts that Len, some like general STLs that were out there that he downloaded so he could work with. And then this head is something that Len put together with a new artist whose name I totally forget. And if he's in the chat, Len can tell us. Drew's also painting. He's doing some Screaming Dwarf heads for Legion Shop. Very cool. So this particular head, this is one that I like a lot. I saw a number of people do customs with these. Anthony House Seal did one with this just recently. Someone who posts as Honed Axe did an amazing knight one with this dwarf knight helmet. If you remember, Len debuted this dwarf knight helmet here on Mythic Customs a few weeks ago. We got to see it for the first time, so really excited to be able to work with it and mess around. Now, everyone I had seen was really like turning this into a knight because that's kind of what it was meant to be, right? Jorge Sabata is the dwarf artist. So when I put this together, I wanted to turn this into a gladiator because I was seeing a lot of people do it as knights, but I really liked it as a gladiator. I thought that looked kind of cool. So that's where I wanted to go with it. Now, I did already paint the face underneath it, which is funny because the face is going to be totally covered up anyway, right? But I painted that here. You can see what I did was I based this out in black, painted that with a couple layers of some really wet paint. It obviously got everywhere. Then I went and touched up everything to get me to this point. So the first thing I'm going to paint is his beard. And I need to know from you what color you think I should do. I could do brown. I could do more of like a blondish. I could do red. I could do orange. I could leave it black and just kind of do some dry brushing on that. I tend to not want to do orange because Torgen is orange, and I just it's overdone to me. I want something that's going to stand out against what he's got going here. So what do you think? What color should I be? I've got blonde. I've got brown. I'm not a big fan of human faces, but I do enough of them that red, black and dry brush light brown. I'm definitely not doing Joker green. Two-tone brown and gray. Brown and graying. Okay. We're going to do brown and graying. So, first things first here. Let me bring this back up. Yep, there we go. Now, I've never actually painted this head before. So, like some heads that I paint, I've painted so many times that I really, really know what to expect. This one, not so much. Now, this is an interesting head too, because we've got a lot of different things going on here. We've got obviously the hair that we're painting right now. We've also got the helmet. We've got the face. We're going to have the visors. He's got the pieces in his beard that we're going to have to paint. So there's quite a bit of stuff happening on this head. Got to dry for a minute. One of the things I'm going to try to do with the armor here, both this shoulder pad, I might do in a different color because the shoulder pad looks like it totally just doesn't belong. It's like just a weird piece of armor that he cobbled together and put on. So that's kind of cool. Whether I do it, I probably won't do it tonight, but one of the things I'm going to do too is I'm going to paint a lot of the details. One of the videos that I've done before where I talk about starting with the dots, where I talk about like on these Legion builders, a lot of these little dots that they have, the rivets and stuff like that, the belts, those are all great things for you to start painting. This particular waist, I love this waist, but it's one that I don't think is great on Legion builders because it's got a belt and it's got fur. Like some of the other waists, like this waist here that's on the Deluxe Gladiator, that waist I think works great as a Legion builder because there's no real like leather belts or fur on it. But this one looks a little bit different. So I definitely I'm going to paint that. One cool thing you may have just seen that I did here with that, you can see that that is a Gladiator Legion builder body. He normally comes with just one of those chest belts. I actually put a second chest belt on him, just inverted it, put it on the other way, and it makes this really interesting pattern at the top. I'm not saying that I'm the first one to do it. I just haven't seen anyone else do it. So if someone else did, I just missed it. But I think it makes a really cool kind of look. So if I have time to get to the human, that's what we're going to see there. So back to here, back to this. One of the things I'm going to do for the armor is I'm going to, whenever I do metallics, and this has got a little metallic sheen to it, I try to paint it with a base color first, let it dry or blow dry it usually, and then go over it with a little dry brushing of a metallic. One of the challenges I always have with metallics is I find that I don't get the coverage I want out of them. So by starting with a non-metallic Vallejo, I get the depth of coverage I want, and then I can dry brush the metallic to get the look I'm going for. Before I do that, I do have these two weapons as well from Len. So this weapon here, we've got like a wooden shield with some metal accents. This one, we've got, a wooden handle in the middle there. So I'm going to go back to those browns. My paint is staying nice and wet because I'm using a wet palette from Curtis. Thank you, Curtis. So this is definitely going to be something where I'm going to try to stay within the lines here. But whatever, I'm not going to stress out. If I go over any of the spots that aren't supposed to be wood, I can just touch them up with black paint later before I paint those like a little dry brush metal color. That's one of the things to remember is you don't have to be 100% super precise if you're going to be able to touch up after anyway. I mean, of course, precision is never a bad thing. If you've got super, super steady hands and you don't have to touch up later, not a problem. But if your hands are less than steady, don't worry about it. Many of us have to do layers. Many of us color outside the lines and then have to come back and fix it after. Now I'll hit this wood with some other colors later. And if you look at wood, it's rarely one solid color. You get some different variations in there. So building up those colors will get me the look that I'm eventually going to be going for. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to use this Vallejo dark gray for a few things. Oh, this is light gray. Thought I grabbed dark gray. Apparently not. Light gray. That's not as dark as I want it to be to match this. So I'm going to add a little bit of black as well there. And what I'm trying to do is match this color or get really, really close to it. And that's what I'm saying here is I'm going to do, see how I'm just putting this on really, really strong. to get that base. Because over this is what I'm going to dry brush the metallic. So this is that 1-2 approach, that two-step approach I was telling you about, where I'm going to start with the flat color to get the coverage I want, and then I'm going to paint the metallic to get the sheen. And then I'm probably going to dry brush some muck and everything because he's a gladiator, right? This I'm going to do in a different color. I'm going to go a little darker or something with that. Or maybe a totally different color. Maybe I'll do some brass on that. You know what? Let me brown here. Just going to get some different colors into this beard. Lighten that up just a little bit. Yeah, I think the brown will look cool on his, against that body. I like that. I think that works. Now, someone said a little bit of graying. I don't 100% know what that means. So let's just play. Let's just experiment a little bit. Just add a little bit of gray to it. Never actually done this before. So see how this looks. Okay. Putting some more brown on it now. Yeah, I'm just experimenting. I'm just seeing what works. I also haven't done his eyebrows, so I'm just going to hit his eyebrows with a little bit of that brown too. Okay, interesting. Let's see. I had some silver here at one point. This is a really like rough hewn axe, so painting this with that silver color. Choo. Okay, I've got a brass here. This has no place in this design at all, but that's why it's fun. This is like that point in a Bob Ross painting where he just draws that like giant tree in the middle of the painting, and you're like, why is there a big tree? This is my big tree for the night. I guess I'll use this color. Oh, this is a cool piece here. There's a lot of textures in this armor. This armor is by Emil Wickman. This is a newer piece that he did. I like this a lot. This would look great with goblins for sure. Really, really cool with goblins and stuff, but I'm liking this. If I put this, yeah, it makes a really interesting, like it doesn't belong, but that's what I'm going for. I will use that brass color elsewhere on the figure to bring that in as well, though. But I like that. that's looking good. Like some of the buckles and stuff, I'll do those in brass as well. Maybe even some of the shield. Okay, let's go back and get some more. Some of these lighter browns. And anything that I don't have time to finish tonight, of course, I'll finish up, take pictures of, and post on my Instagram so you can see how it comes out. But this is really playtime, okay? This is, Jeremy has some Gladiator parts that he can use. Jeremy got a box from Len, and I'm just experimenting. And I think this is healthy for everything that Curtis and I talked about a few weeks ago with character design. You know, for every well thought out project, it's fun to play around like this. You know, I look at people like Eric Miller, who's in the, here, or Emil Wickman, and like the tribute customs that they do, or even all the tribute customs that I'm working on for Legion's Con this year. Tribute customs are not playtime. Tribute customs, by their very nature, at least for me, require a lot of really in-depth thought because you're trying to represent something very, very specific, and you've got to figure out the best way to do that, right? I love doing that. But there's also a place, I think, for playing around like this and just messing around with different colors in different parts to see literally what sticks. Very cool. By the way, I should also mention that all these pieces that I'm painting tonight with Wolf King Custom Parts, I will bring all of these to ZoloCon so they can be on the Wolf King Customs table. If you want to see any of them in person, that is going to be your place to do so. So what I did for that face shield, trying to get that same kind of color. I'm going to do that for his helmet next. Multi-step process. Starting with coverage, then I'll do metallic sheen, then I'll do battle damage and wear. So it's a little lighter, so let me darken that up a little bit. But again, one of the nice things I always talk about doing projects that are forgiving. One of the nice things about gladiators is they're brutal. It's okay if their armor is damaged and messed up and everything. You don't have to go for absolute precision all the time. So that's a nice aspect of doing that. I'm going to go back and check out some of the comments here. Let's see. Okay. So some questions about scars that Star was asking that a few people answered. Joe, I mean, so the question is, he's asking, will we ever see that part again in the future? Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I would assume yes. Most parts, I think, outside of probably like the super specific character heads, like Erithere and Poxis and stuff, those are harder to use because they are so specific. But you never even know with those. I mean, look at what's coming out with the PowerCon figure of Demistros, which is not a Mythic Legions figure. So things like that lend themselves better to using it. But a part like that is much more likely to come out again. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. The head that I have that I'm gonna do that I came up for that is this wolf head, the Lupus Rex set that Len put out. I seen everyone doing like very wolf knights with it, which is super cool. But of course, I wanted to do something totally different. So I did that, and then I used these pauldrons that Stephen Bouchatti had designed. Uh, and I believe Gia sculpted these too. But they have this like sun motif on them and the shield as well. And I really dig that because in like wolf mythology, there's a character called, I believe his name's Skoll. But Skoll is the wolf that like eats the sun. So I liked the idea of having this wolf gladiator that has very sun-like motifs all over his armor. So I gave him, that sun shield and that sun armor. So this is one that I won't have time to paint tonight, but this is on my list of customs to paint, and all these parts are at Wolf King Customs. So this, I'm digging how it's coming out here. That wrap around here, just hit it with a little bit of color, but for the most part, I'm leaving it pretty much black. Yeah, like I said, I like that brass. And one of the things that you can do with that brass is just grab more of a fine tipped brush. And just paint some of those details here. You look at this armor, and there's so many little buckles and so many little dots that even something as simple as painting all of those, this is super, super easy to do. But the amount that it adds, the amount of like detail that it adds is so cool, so incredible. The buckle. I'm having a little bit of a hard time at the angle with that buckle, so I'm going to clean that up later. That didn't come out the way I wanted, so I will absolutely clean that up. But for the purposes of this, just adding those paints in there. But even just something like that ties some of that brass in to what I've got here. I could even use this brass, and while I dry brushed that armor with that brass, it goes on very, very light. So I can pull that armor off, and maybe I'll use that brass and I'll use a lot darker application around the rim here. Oops, dropping it. Using that a lot darker gives it a different look as well. And again, lots of really gnarly detail in this armor. Makes it look like it's been through the ringer. really perfect for a nasty goblin or a dwarf who's making his way in the Colosseum fighting. Very good. Put that there. So now, last thing I want to do here is I want to hit these with a little bit of that metallic. So I'm going to take my metallic tin, put a little bit more in there. I just very lightly want to dry brush this on. And again, even if it's not exact, which it's certainly not, it's okay because it's meant to be a gladiator. It's meant to have some wear and look different. You know, this armor didn't have to have been made by the same smith or whatever that painted the same smith that forged the rest of the armor. So that's what we're looking at. I'll bring it up here as well. How's that look? Let's see. Put my glasses on so I can actually see what I'm doing here. But this guy's cool. He's a fun guy. I like him a lot. Like I said, once I'm not on camera, I've got some touch-ups that I want to do on him. But he's really starting, like his personality's really starting to come out. Put this back in here. So yeah, this guy, he's starting to come together. I'm liking him a lot. He's looking good. Let me do a little bit with that brass color again. I'm going to go back to the brass. Painting what would essentially be the metal parts of the shield. What other kinds of gladiators do you think would be cool? So I'm doing a vampire and a dwarf tonight. I mean, we've seen skeleton gladiators, kind of, because Celtus is part of Colosseum. Obviously, we've seen humans. What else do you think would be cool? What other kinds of gladiators do you think would be neat? I know that Mark and all of his crew are going to say goblins, right? Because they love their goblins. Lift the visor part way. So like that. There you go. Warrior Gladiator. I did a Warrior Samurai years ago, and that's one of my favorite customs. I've always loved that one. Panda Gladiators. Peter is talking my language right there. That's my guy. Yeah. Would love a panda. I actually have a panda action figure right here. This is from, what is this? From World of Warcraft. And it kills me because it's not articulated. It's basically a statue, but it's a panda. And it's just so cool. It just kills me that it's essentially a statue and not an actual figure that I can mess around with and pose. Those old Warcraft figures were sculpturally so gorgeous, but they were statues. I mean, there was the fact that they were called action figures was totally silly. Hmm. Werewolf Gladiator, yeah. I mean, Minotaur. I mean, we can definitely start talking about races that don't exist in mythos as of yet. Werewolf being one of them. There are werewolves in mythos. Eric Treadaway has confirmed as much. I've asked him that on this show, and he has said yes, there are werewolves. There are lots of races and beasts and so forth in mythos that we have yet to see. So that's very exciting that we've just started to scratch the surface of what there is. I just want cosmic grave ring fights. Yeah. Female gladiators, Jagualians. Let's see. Curtis says, I want more Colosseum orcs. Yeah, this guy's fun. This is a great head. This is an absolutely super cool head. So I'm definitely going to paint the little, I don't know what to call them, the rings on his beard. That's going to be something I paint up as well. But like, look at that. Look at the edge of that armor. Like that was something that I just did on the fly, and even just a little thing like that. Like I'm so happy with the way that looks. That is the power of just playing around with these things and just hitting them with some paint and experimenting. Yeah, because this is starting to come. This is really starting to come together in a way that I like. There's a little accents on the axe. Just hitting those with some of that brass color. You don't need a lot, but just tying all that in together starts to look really good. And again, this guy, I really like how he came out. Very, very simple, but I still dig him. Okay, let's see. Will singing a little Cheers. Nolan, going to give my first painting shot a shot next week. Very good. Good luck. I cannot wait to see what you make, Nolan. Yeah, Lord Venger. This wet palette that Curtis got me came with some sheets of paper. They are apparently a special kind of paper because you're supposed to like soak them in water for like 15 minutes before you use them. And I don't know a lot of paper that you can do that with. So it is a certain kind of paper. It's not just regular paper. I did see that Curtis say in the chat that he uses parchment paper in his wet palette. So certainly there's replacements you can get or something else like parchment paper. Curtis, I would love to go to Michigan in March. Unfortunately, with the rest of my travel schedule, I don't think I'm going to be able to make that one to MuskeeCon. I would love to. I very, very much would. Maybe next year. No, it's not Fenris that is the wolf, Will. Fenris is the wolf from Norse mythology. This is a different. The word skulls in my head because when Wolf King did the original wolf heads, the villain character in that was Skull Sun Eater, and I named him that because there is a legend of a wolf eating the sun. It's not Fenris though. I mean, granted, the legends all may borrow from each other, but it was a different wolf. Let's see, Troll Gladiator. Yeah, that would be a cool one. Elf Gladiator. See, that's a cool thing because you wouldn't picture an elf as being involved in gladiatorial combat. Like someone like Warrior or a goblin, or a dwarf. These are all characters that are rough and tumble anyway. So you can imagine them. But an elf, that is, for me, a really interesting idea because a lot of the characteristics that you would imagine a gladiator having are not what you would imagine an elf having. So the design question is, does the elf get gladiatorial traits, or does the elf stay with a lot of the traits you know from an elf, but you try to make a gladiator fit into that? Maybe this isn't a brutish gladiator. Maybe this is a very sleek gladiator that's death by a thousand cuts type, character. So yeah, a lot of cool possibilities there. I love that idea. And there are sea creatures, Bob, in Mythos. There really haven't been any explored yet outside of the bog goblin, but there's a lot of water on the map of Mythos, and you better believe that there are some characters swimming around living in there. A living tuberculi gladiator. I like that. Just finished my first custom night earlier, Kavar Customs. Very cool. Looking forward to seeing that. Does anyone make polar bear heads for legions to do winter gladiators? The problem with a polar bear head is, and I've done a bear custom before, and I did it obviously on an ogre. Emil had done a bear head. And the problem is there isn't a furry body. So to do a bear, I feel like you got to go brute or ogre scale because you want it to be oversized. And until we got Sir Ukzak, we didn't even have a fully armored body. So all of the ogre bodies have flesh parts. I used a Shadow Equidron because at least they're brown. But if I was going to do a full on like bear custom, like a polar bear custom, I would want a furry body for that. So we don't have that at this point. So that's one of those things. There's a lot of ideas for customs that I have personally that I say, you know what, we're not ready for that. I'm going to push that to another date, to a later date, once we've got new parts. They both eat the sun. Lots of overlap, Will says. So there you go. Fuzzmonk Gladiator. Yeah, getting that one in for for Jesse. Yes, Greg came flying in. He heard someone say Sir Ukzak, and he was like, "Whoa, Sir Ukzak! There you go. Got to talk about that." Yeah, that is going to be a cool figure. That fully armored body on Sir Ukzak for an ogre, that's going to be a game changer right there. So while I have you here, just something as simple as this, right? I talk about painting the dots, just small brush, get some paint on that, and just literally tapping the dots on this. Something as simple as that adds that little extra level of detail. I mean, obviously on a non-Legion builder, these little rivets are pieces that would be painted anyway. So by you painting it on a Legion builder, you're getting that level of detail to turn it from that lower paint Legion builder into, what looks like more of a regular figure. Super, super easy to do. Liking that. I'm gonna have a lot of brushes to clean after this video today. So it is now 6:49, 8:49. I definitely don't have time to do a lot more painting. Hopefully you enjoyed that tonight. Like I said, it was a little more off the cuff, not as in depth. We didn't finish a project like we did last week, but that's okay. We don't have to finish a project every single week. That's one of the reasons I actually stopped doing some of these, was because trying to cram everything into 90 minutes was getting hard. But I don't think I need to do that, right? We can just be here. We can have fun. We can enjoy each other's company. We can paint a little bit, and we can finish the project later, right? That's part of what we can do. So I've got 10 more minutes. Let's chat. Let's talk. What do you want to talk about? What questions do you have? What are you excited for? Other than, Cosmic and so forth, All Stars 5 coming. Those are obviously very exciting things. What else is going on? Let's talk. I'm going to put a cover on my wet palette. Zolo Khan says, Uncle Bob, yeah, Zolo Khan's going to be a lot of fun. I'm just fingers crossed that the weather holds out. I've got a long drive, so very much hoping that weather holds out so we won't have a problem there. Yeah, I set up the Groger signal. Centaur Gladiator. I mean, people have done centaurs. I know that Len had a bunch of really cool centaur pieces at Legion's Con that Doug Dollmaker had done. Those were very, very cool as well. I know Brian Almeida has also done some very cool centaur customs. Those two possibilities there. Varg to make a Gargoyle Hudson tribute. I mean, I've done a bunch of gargoyle customs, like painting them like stone, not like actual, the gargoyles from Gargoyles and stuff. But those are always fun customs to do. Elder PowerCon exclusive multiverse elaboration. You don't need to read into it that deep. It's not a multiverse or anything like that. Demistros, it is literally just a cool toy. One of the challenges is, if you know about the PowerCon debut figures we do, the ones that are very much, inspired by Masters of the Universe characters, those characters, they're not part of Mythic Legion's lore. So we've said before, this was one of the questions that Eric and I got at Legion's Con in my session where we talked about the upcoming book. Someone asked if those characters will play a role, and the answer was absolutely not. Those characters they serve a very specific purpose. They're a fun little subset of characters that are only, one and done. We don't redo them. They're not part of All Stars, for voting or anything like that. So because we've already got a subset of characters in the Mythic Legions line that don't actually contribute to the lore, we didn't want to compound this by adding additional characters like Demistros and any others we may do down the road for shows or whatever. We don't want to keep adding that into the Mythic Legions checklist, essentially, and having to keep saying, oh yeah, but they're not part of the story. They're not part of the story. That creates confusion. So we said, you know what? We can make a cool toy. It's a Legion in all but name, right? It obviously is going to fit in with all of your Mythic Legions. It's going to look like it belongs because it uses Legion's parts. But it's not a character that's part of the lore. It's not part of a multiverse. It is just a cool toy. Maybe as we do more PowerCon releases down the road in subsequent years, maybe that will be characters that interact with each other. But that is not a story we are writing. That is not a lore we are exploring. The whole goal of that figure, I put together the Demistros figure. The original build of parts was mine. And then the original paint job that I put on it was changed significantly at the studio to get more of that patina type look on it and stuff. But the whole point of putting that build together was just to create a cool toy that, harken back to the villain type characters of the toys of, my childhood. Yes, certainly Masters of the Universe, but all those toy lines, Crystar and Thundercats and all those, fun toy lines that had these like warlordy, dastardy villains, taking that but updating it to something that's a little edgier. That was really what we were going for with that for Demistro. So not a multiverse, not part of the lore, not going to make his way into Mythos at any point, but a cool toy. Which figure do I feel has more customizing potential, Bushati Pelvicus or Praetorian Uwit? The reason I love Praetorian Uwit is because of the fabric arms and legs. I'm so into those right now. Like, I just cannot get enough of them. I have so many ideas that those work really, really well for. Now, the ones that come with that are red. So, because we've gotten a couple other colors, I'm not necessarily jumping at painting them all the time because they are joints and stuff. But I love those fabric parts. I also like that thick torso and that thick waist. There's no better parts to make a dwarf build start than that thick torso and that thick waist piece. So I really do like the Praetorian and Uwit. That being said, I love the red armor on the Bushati figure and the Pelvicus figure. That red armor looks great with so many black torso. That red armor, wonderful. And it's got more of that like samurai build in the middle. So there's no wrong answer. They both have parts that I think work really well. I know that's a very Travis, like I'm so on the fence type answer, but it's true. Len says, post is up in the Cabal with the discount code for Mythic Customs fans too. Thank you very much, Len. On that note, I will say, I will reference the Cabal as of late. I put up a post yesterday in the Cabal about, it was for Valentine's Day. It was a photo of Snag giving some chocolates to Queen Artemis. And I told a little story about, what this community and what this line means to me. And I challenged others to spread the positivity, to share the love. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that between yesterday and today has shared story after story after story of, what this line means to them, what this community means to them. I can tell you, as a member of the studio, we get a lot of feedback, letters, emails, people at shows coming us and telling us these stories, comments on our posts, private messages, you name it. There's a lot of ways to communicate with us, but we hear from a lot of people who this is so much more than a toy line to them. The community, the toys, the love of this group, of this community has been there for them at very, very difficult times in their life. And it's incredible to think that these toys and this community is able to provide that level of support. Too often, especially online, communities become incredibly toxic. It's weird. My wife, who is not a toy collector, when I've told her in the past that toy communities tend to be very toxic at times, it blew her mind because she's like, they're toys and these are supposed to be fun. How would it get toxic? But it does. And it's amazing that our community is so overwhelmingly positive. So thank you to everyone who shared their personal stories, who shared the positivity and spread that love. You are what this community and what this company is all about. Approximate time to dive from Miami to New Jersey. Google would probably be your best bet to find that out. Let's see. Will White is saying South Mississippi to New Jersey is 18. Anthony's saying Miami to my house was 21. So probably like 27 with stops. Let's see. Brian saying, I know we're 9 months away, but I'm super curious what the next wave will be like now that the Four Horsemen characters have been done. Yeah, I'm excited for that too. I'm excited for that. There's a lot of stuff coming up before we get to the end of year wave, but I am excited for that too. Let's see. A lot of people talking about ZoloCon. It's going to be a party. If you're in the New Jersey, Pennsylvania area, ZoloCon next weekend is the place to be. Star, I don't know these answers. Just look them up on Google. I don't know how far everything is from each other. Masterverse saying, Mythic Legions has been a whole new outlet for me with more customizing to be had. Absolutely. Lots of ideas, lots of fun times to have there. So I will be back next week. Same Mythic time, same Mythic channel. Thank you all for joining. Once again, remember, this Saturday at Store Horseman, you are going to be able to get, let me bring up the banners here. This Saturday at Store Horseman. Come on. Couple announcements. Okay. There we go. Store Horseman this Saturday. It is going to be the Legions Con standard figures. 12 p.m. Eastern time. Those go for sale. Not going to sell out in minutes, but don't delay. You want to get up there and get them. The stuff that I painted tonight, plus a lot more, that is for sale. WolfKingCustoms.com. You can see the URL here. Mythic Conversations EP 128. There's also a 10% off discount code that Len has shared in the Cabal and also in the Wolf Den. Take advantage of that. Last thing, want to give a shout out to my friend Chris Gorich, William Smithsonian. He has a very cool Kickstarter happening this coming Tuesday, the 21st, Fat Tuesday, right before Lent. Perfect timing. If you've been checking him out, he's got his Biblical Adventures line. Super fun line that, quite honestly, a ton of members of the studio have been involved with in terms of sculpting, in terms of photography, in terms of painting. A lot of people are involved. It is very much an associated type project with so much of the stuff that you love about Four Horsemen Studios and the love that we put into our toys. Chris is putting this into this line as well. Whether you are devoutly religious and the biblical nature of the line speaks to you, or whether you just think there's a lot of other cool stuff, the Angel Michael as a statue, there's Lucifer, there's some demons, there's multiple Jesus figures. Lot of stuff to like. I am going to have Chris on my show probably in a few weeks once the Kickstarter is going on, so we can talk about where it is. And I have some fun stuff I want to talk about with that Kickstarter as well. So the kind of launch page for the Biblical Adventures from D13 Studios, that URL is on my screen. If you go there right now, you can click notify me when it goes live, and when it goes live, they will notify you. Go figure. I'll be back next week. Thank you all very much. Let's see. Curtis is here. Usually Curtis has a plug. So let's see if Curtis has a plug. Curtis is saying, the closer we get to Cosmic, the more I am getting excited. Absolutely. That's a reminder. As you get those Cosmic figures in, don't forget, use the hashtag Cosmic is coming. We want to see all your cool pictures. What else? Yeah, go support Chris. He's a great dude. Absolutely. Thank you all very, very much for tuning in. I will be back here next week. Same Mythic time, same Mythic channel. I will see you then.